functions of government for Sacramento's 500,000 residents. Alibi found lots to like about his new office. In addition to ample space for a good-sized desk and a couch long enough to accommodate a 6-foot frame when he stretched out for 40 winks, there was room for a small conference table and a rolling whiteboard, his preferred tool for thinking through a complex case alone or with colleagues. He'd learned that if he created a visual record of key points and posted it in his line of sight, it helped ideas and threads to percolate in his subconscious, even when he wasn't actively considering them. Best of all, his west-facing window overlooked Cesar Chavez Park, a tree-lined public square. In the late 1800s, it had hosted circuses complete with elephants, and now frequently held lively concerts and the farmers' market, creating a fiesta-like atmosphere. Its vibrancy made Alibi feel connected to the city and the people he served. Some in his position wouldn't like being located so near to the mayor, whose chambers were on the next floor up, but Alibi found the Honorable Melissa Ruiz to be reasonable, at least in terms of the demands she put on his time. She didn't use proximity as an excuse to pop in for frequent updates, but instead relied on Breno Silva, a bright young communications specialist whose responsibilities had recently been expanded to include serving as liaison between Alibi and the mayor's office on issues of public safety. Breno and Alibi got along well. They were both international football fans, and despite Breno supporting the men's Brazilian team and Alibi the Italians, they'd found common ground cheering for Team USA in women's soccer. They also empathized with each other regarding the frequency with which they had to explain the origin of their names. At 15, Alibi had overheard his aunt telling his uncle that the timing of his birth had cleared his father of a murder rap. Upon holding his newborn son for the first time, his father had reportedly exclaimed, "Oh, my beautiful Alibi." The rest, as they say, was history. As far as his surname, Alibi had been unable to find any other relatives who went by Morning Sun. He'd concluded that the type of criminal activity that had led to the murder charge had caused his father to invent a false moniker. How better to avoid identification and culpability, pre-internet, than through a difficult-to-track pseudonym? Breno had only one unusual name to contend with, and even that wouldn't have been the case had he lived in Brazil, where its Portuguese origin and meaning, king, were well known. But in the United States in the year Breno was born, only 10 in 1 million babies shared his name. When Alibi was offered a promotion to management, he'd underestimated the hours of administrative tasks that would come with it. As he sat down at his computer to engage with the jumble of windows and threads and pings that lay in wait there, he wondered, not for the first time, whether the career move had been wise. 3 years ago, about to turn 40, he'd thought taking on new challenges was a good idea. Plus, there'd been the promise of a significantly higher paycheck. Now, still single, still living in his comfortable one-bedroom apartment, and still happily driving his old Chevy pickup when off-duty, Alibi was having trouble figuring out what to spend the added money on. Maybe he should take a trip somewhere exotic or relaxing. After skimming several emails with limited retention of what he'd read, he longed for an infusion of caffeine. He decided he'd walk to Second Chance Cafe as soon as it opened and pick up a large, fresh-brewed, dark roast coffee to go. In addition to increasing his productivity, he might run into Emma there. The popular spot was under a mile from her office, and it had happened before. How long had it been since he'd seen her? A month? Then he remembered Breno and Kate's party. He was sure Emma would attend. He checked his calendar and confirmed the invitation was for tonight. "We're engaged. Open house, March 10th, Wednesday, 5 to 8 p.m. Drop by for tapas and drinks. Help us celebrate. Kate and Breno." Alibi hadn't closed his office door. He hadn't thought anyone would be around this early. Sensing someone there, he glanced up to find Breno standing in the open doorway. Breno Silva was a fit, dark-haired, handsome young man with strong features. At work, he wore conservatively cut suits with a plain dress shirt, collar open, unless he was called to speak to the press, at which point he added one of the many silk ties he kept in his top desk drawer. He had a habit of frequently pushing his gold-rimmed glasses firmly up onto the bridge of his nose. From the look on Breno's face, Alibi gathered he wasn't there to discuss the latest striker the Brazil...